Welcome to my lab. Today we're going to be talking about how you can apply for part-time jobs in Germany, what their importance is, and how they're actually a pretty nice source of income. So let's start. What I do in Germany is that I work in a microplastics lab, a microplastic labor in German, that's how they write it, and I'm a helping scientist, technically a research assistant. So as a research assistant, my job is that me and another HiWi, we work with this professor who's a PhD or postdoc. Basically, that's how it operates, that a professor will hire somebody as like a research assistant, somebody who assists them. It could be in a research institute or it could even be in your university. So all professors, like if they have enough funding, they're allowed to hire somebody. So what I do is that some of the work that the professor is too busy doing, like of course a professor has a postdoc or a PhD, they're doing a lot of the work, they're teaching, or either they're doing some research that's too complicated. So some of the easier tasks, like for example handling a microscope, filtering some samples, all that, we do that. So that's my job in this. Like right now you see I'm right next to a microscope because most of my job is dealing with microplastics, and with microplastics we have microscopes to actually analyze them. That's my job. I analyze microplastics and I help in the overall process of retrieving those microplastics from the sediment that we get from the ocean. So where I work is called GeoMar or GeoMar in Germany, and this is an institute in which we deal with marine oceanography, marine life and marine biology. So a very important component that this lab is linked with is the ocean sediment. Technically the soil at the bottom of the ocean, that's not the right accurate term for it, but we just call it ocean sediment. So what you find at the bottom of the ocean. So there are a lot of cruise ships by GeoMar, since it's a very big research institute in Germany. So what they do is that they have these cruise ships that travel all across Europe and in the Baltic Sea, in the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, like places where they have these scientific cruises planned for collecting data. So a part of these cruise ships, of course, they have a lot of data collection. Some of the data collection involved is getting samples from the ocean floor, send them over to us, and then we use these samples and find out whether there's microplastics in the bottom of the ocean. Obviously, there's SpongeBob at the bottom of the ocean. Who lives in a pineapple under the sea? But technically, we find the microplastics inside the ocean sediment, and then we have a whole process of filtration. I'll show you a lot of things in the lab, a lot of components that go on, a lot of samples are being dealt with, a lot of machinery is being used, and we use that to treat the ocean sediment and somewhat dissolve it in order to collect the microplastics out of it, and then we analyze them over here in the microscope. Since it's a microplastic lab, microplastics are these substances that are everywhere. Plastic on its own doesn't degrade, so plastic keeps on going into shorter and shorter and shorter forms that the naked eye cannot see. So these forms, we end up eating. The plastic is everywhere. This camera that I'm using, a lot of its components are plastic, and a lot of the machinery that you use in your daily life has plastic. So what this lab does is that we try our best to lower the amount of plastic substances in this lab, and we're told to wear a lot of stuff to prevent the plastic that comes from outside to not contaminate the samples inside the lab. And we clean everything very thoroughly. We have a lot of wash bottles and everything that we use. We clean the lab ourselves to make sure that there is no contaminant from outside coming in. We have all these precautions, but still sometimes some things come through, and those microplastics from outside can contaminate the samples that we have from the ocean floor, and then we can have some false results. So we try to clean every single thing thoroughly and multiple times in order to prevent all this contamination from happening. So that's partly the job that I do. And as you can see, this is like the majority of the lab, and that's a fume hood. That's where we have a lot of carbonate reactions, a lot of reactions with acids, so that the gases, they get contained in that hood. They don't affect us. This is a heating oven. There's an ultrasonic bath for cleaning. That's where most of our cleaning stuff is. That's the sink. That's a cupboard with all of our stuff. We're currently on top of a cupboard. There's a lot of stuff going on. And of course, that's the microscope, which I am currently working on. So what we do is that we make sure everything's clean, we make sure there's nothing contaminated, and then we have a lot of samples collected from all of these multiple steps in which we involve cleaning, in which we involve getting the microplastics out from the sediment. Like for example, this is sediment from the ocean floor that we have to treat. So after all of that, we analyze it in the microscope. But that's enough about my job. I just thought I'd share. Let's talk about what these HiWi jobs entail. So when most people come to Europe from countries like Pakistan or any other country in the world, so what we do is that we look for jobs that we claim are high paying. So in Europe, a lot of countries have like a specific minimum wage. For Germany, the minimum wage is slowly increasing over the course of this year because of the new government. So I came in Germany in October and I started this job in November. So then the minimum wage was 9.6 euros. Then by December, it went up to 9.82, and in July, it will go up to 10.45 euros per hour. These are all per hour, and by the end of this year, by December 2022, it will go up to 12 euros per hour. And this means that you work a specific number of hours and then you earn money with that. Now, the job that I'm doing is called a HiWi, and these HiWi jobs are not those jobs that require you to work a specific number of hours as per your visa. And in Germany, you're allowed to work like 20 hours per week on your study visa. But this HiWi job does not count in those 20 hours, since you're technically working with the university as a research assistant. So if you're doing this job, you don't need to worry about covering 20 hours with this. As long as you can manage your jobs, you can do another part-time job. Let's say somebody who's working in a cafeteria, somebody who's working in other places, or as a delivery boy, etc., etc. And for those jobs, you need to worry about the hours. For these HiWi jobs, the hours don't matter because they're technically linked to universities or research institutes, so they're free. So you don't need to worry about your hours with these jobs, and that's why they're called mini jobs or HiWi jobs, and they're actually pretty nice because you learn a lot with them. For example, in my case, I'm working in a microplastic lab, and my entire degree was environmental engineering, and I'm currently studying sustainability. So environmental management is a very important aspect of my degree. And when I'm working with microplastics and learning about them, being part of research about them, this can actually be very important for my CV. And this can actually look really good on my CV, that I've worked in a very big research institute that has its own cruise ships and worked with a very decorated professor on her research team. So that's actually something that can look really good on your CV. So if you're somebody who wants to improve his professional experience in Germany, then these HiWi jobs can actually be very nice for your resume. They look really nice because you're actually working in a research team or maybe with a professor, and it looks really good on your resume. So I'm working in a research institute, but you can also have a HiWi job with a professor in university. And like my job is doing a lot of scientific stuff, right? But your job can also be just like doing a bit of photocopying. There are online portals where for the university in which they talk about their courses. So you can just write about the courses that the professor is teaching over there, or a lot of other things. So you can do a lot of basic things in these HiWi jobs. Like my job is actually a little intense because I work in a research institute, and I like this because it's good for my degree. But maybe someone like you doesn't want to work in a scientific institute, but they can get a HiWi job as like somebody who just makes some photocopies for a professor or helps them conduct a class, or actually like when the professor is absent, you teach that class in their absence. Obviously, they'll select you on the basis of your qualities and your qualifications. They'll teach you. Because I didn't know most of this lab work. I just knew 50% from my bachelor's because I did engineering. But my boss here, she taught me everything alongside the other HiWis. So it's not a problem. All you have to show is your motivation, and you can get these jobs. And they're actually very nice in the sense that A, they're good for your professional experience, and B, they're not in your study visa hours. So you can even do another part-time job if you can manage your studies according to it. Now in Germany, there's a rule that you can earn a lot of money from any single job up to 450 euros. That's 90,000 Pakistani rupees. So you can earn money up to that, and that won't be taxed. And as long as you earn money above that, it will be taxed. So usually what these HiWi jobs do is that they make you work as many hours with the minimum wage so that it peaks at 450, so that you don't have to pay taxes. And then you can easily work in these jobs without worrying about taxes. So that's good. Even if you work like more than 40 hours in these jobs, it won't come on your visa application like you've worked more than you're legally allowed to. Because again, these are university jobs, they don't really matter that much. So in these HiWi jobs, of course, you're earning minimum wage, so you're not earning a lot of money. But if you're somebody coming from a country like Pakistan or India or maybe some places in Africa, then obviously this minimum wage is much more than you've ever earned. So I just work around 34.5 hours a month, which is around 8 hours a week. So 1 full day a week, 4 full days in a month, and I earn around 450 euros. Like that's around 90,000 rupees. So that's a lot of money for me, which comes in handy with my blocked account sum. So I merge them together, and then I can afford to travel across Europe and do everything. So it's actually really nice for me. And a lot of people can do that. So this is like the minimum that you earn in Europe. A lot of Europeans would not want to do this because they'd rather earn more. So they work in bars or cafeterias. But if you're somebody like me who doesn't know the German language, then that's a disadvantage for you. So these jobs, most of them don't require a language because science or your professors, they always teach in English. If you're studying your master's, majority of your master programs are going to be in English. So then you don't really need to worry about having a German language because your professor is pretty fluent in English and they expect you to only talk in English. So you're good that way. Your communication is not going to be a problem and you can land these jobs. Even if the jobs aren't advertised, you email your professor and tell them that if there's any HiWi opening, they should consider you, and just and if they ask for your CV, send them your CV. Make a really good CV. Of course, if you applied for a master's, obviously you know how to make a CV. Then use those CVs and just make sure that you present yourself in a way that that job seems appropriate for you. And again, you can earn a lot of money. And by the end of this year, by the end of December 2022, I don't know when you're going to be watching this, the income that is non-taxable is 450 euros. But by next year, it'll go up to 540 euros. So you can even earn 540 euros per month. And again, these minimum wages are increasing. Some jobs, some HiWi jobs will pay you just the minimum wage. Some might even pay you more, but up till 450 euros. And sometimes your bosses are super nice. So if you're on your contract, it says that you have to work 34.5 hours per month. And your boss is like, well, you've met the deadlines. You don't need to be here for these 8 hours per day, like in my case, per week. So they can just be like, oh, as long as you've done your work, just go home. It's totally fine. But some bosses here are going to be very ridiculous. They're going to be like, oh, you've already done your work. Let's do more work. Let's finish those hours per week. So it depends on your luck, what type of boss you get. So that's pretty much it. A lot of jobs pay more than this, but a lot of Pakistanis and people keep on applying for those jobs and they end up sacrificing their studies by working so much to earn money, whereas they don't even realize that these jobs are available and they're mini jobs. And then even if you don't get the other job, like maybe working in a cafeteria or in a bar to earn like 13, 14, 15 euros per hour, that's a lot of money, especially for somebody coming from Pakistan. But even if you get those jobs and you feel like you have a lot of free time on your hands, maybe in the summer, you can easily apply to these HiWi jobs and maybe it's just work for 3 or 4 months and get like a very nice stable form of income. 450 euros is a lot of money for me. I feel like it's enough. Obviously in the future, I would want more money if I'm doing a full-time job, but if I'm only working like 1 day a week, 4 days a month, and I'm earning 90,000 rupees, then I know a lot of people in Pakistan who are working full-time and they're not even getting half of this. So it's a very nice opportunity to like actually get income in, because this amount combined with your blocked account amount can actually be more than enough. So that's my take on this and I hope it helped. So now I'm just gonna go back to doing my work. I decided to bring my camera today to the office so that I can show you guys where I work. A lot of people have commented that how do I work part-time, what part-time jobs do I do? So I feel like this is actually something that I should share with you guys. So don't necessarily go into a job like mine, like in a science institute, but just look out for the word HiWi, HiWi jobs, and apply because they're non-taxable, they're a small amount of money, you don't have to work a lot for it, you don't have to meet a lot of deadlines, and it's really good. So instead of always focusing on jobs that require a lot of hard work, like being a rider for a delivery service or maybe being a bar manager or maybe working as a cleaner, a lot of those jobs are very difficult. And if you're studying, these jobs can actually not put a lot of pressure on you. They can just be similar to doing an assignment, maybe doing a bit of field work if you're from an engineering degree. And then you earn a lot of money for that. So that's a very nice opportunity. And obviously, maybe sometimes you're lucky, your boss might even increase your hours. And even if they're above the taxable income, it's still good because then even if you work like 40 hours, these jobs are university jobs. So they don't go on your whole overall visa allowance. So that's good. That's a good opportunity. Make sure that you work on these and make sure that you look out for these and apply for these. And if you're not in Germany, you can look up these jobs on LinkedIn, even on Google Jobs. They're everywhere. Even in your own university, find out if there are any available opportunities. A senior of mine advised me to look for a HiWi job and I got one and it's helped me a lot. So if you're like me and just want like a stable source of income but don't want to work as hard for it, then these are good jobs for you. They're ideal mini jobs and they're pretty handy. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go do my work. I hope you understood this. Like, share, subscribe. Bye bye.